We got a new iPhone, a new iPad Air. We got the M1 chip in more products. Talk to us about the most significant updates we saw today.
Yeah, I think the two most significant product updates we saw today was the new iPhone SE as well as the Mac Studio display. I'll consider that, one combined product line. So starting with the SE, I think that's significant because I think it's going to bring over a lot of switchers to the iPhone, particularly people who want to get a somewhat low-priced 5G phone, right? I think the big news for the SE is 5G. Now, I'm not of the school of thought that thinks 5G has really moved the needle in terms of performance, but I do believe 5G has been an extremely key marketing term for Apple, Samsung, and other phone makers, and of course the carriers, for the most part. So I think that is going to drive some interest. Now, the Mac Studio and the Mac Studio display. I think the display at $1,600 is going to do fairly well. Consumers have been looking for an Apple design, Apple sold display since they discontinued their own cinema displays several years ago, I think about 6 years ago at this point. At $1,600, it's about a third of the price of their $5,000 to $6,000 Pro Display XDR, so I think that is going to be a very nice offering. This new M1 Ultra chip, I think, is really going to give Intel a run for its money on the mid-tier, sort of inching towards the high end as well on their chip lineup. And I think this Mac Studio is going to be low volume, but it's going to be popular amongst creative types, video editing, photo editors, engineers, etc.
Julie, Apple's coming off a record-setting holiday quarter, but being thrust into several months of global economic uncertainty. It's paused services in Russia, cut off product sales there. How do you think these updates will actually drive demand in the coming quarters in the context of what's happening on the macroeconomic level?
Yeah, so I would echo what Mark said. When we look at so 91% of consumers in the United States and North America already own a smartphone. So the way that you grow share is by taking it from Android. And our data shows that of smartphone purchasers in the past 3 months, 6% came from Android devices. So it looks like Apple is making progress there. Also, when we look at households, 42% own a tablet today. So there's a lot of upside for Apple there. And when we look at streaming TV services, we show that consumers are watching upwards of 4 to 5 hours of streaming TV and games each day. And Apple's third today, with Amazon being in first place. So there's a lot of upside for Apple as it continues to build on its product portfolio, including the services. So I would echo Mark's comments today. And then certainly the chipsets are impressive. That's always going to give them an advantage, not just in putting more performance, more power efficient devices into smaller and thinner packages. That's always going to be a winning formula. But as we look forward into future experiences, having that kind of power on a device and being able to do things like computer vision and speech recognition and security, facial recognition on device are all very powerful attributes of those devices.
So, Julie, are you worried about consumer demand, though? Obviously, we're worried about, rising gas prices on top of inflation. Could that impact demand for these devices over the next few months?
So I'm not an economist. So, the answer is possibly. We haven't seen a slowdown. We all thought the pandemic would impact our spending. That was 2 years ago. That proved to be wrong. So while not an economist, we don't yet see that in our numbers when we looked at consumers' planned purchases over the next 3 to 6 months. But certainly, given what's going on in Ukraine day to day, it's hard to have perfect information.
And Mark, obviously focusing on the day-to-day, we know that Apple paused product sales in Russia. There have been calls from the Ukrainian government for Apple to cut off the App Store. Are you expecting Apple to make any more aggressive moves in the region or not?
I mean, I saw Pepsi, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, and Starbucks today. Really, the levers Apple pulled in Russia are the big ones they could have done, right? They could have paused sales. They could have removed some of the Russian news apps from external app stores outside of Russia. They stopped exports into their sales channels into the country there and did some changes to maps and other services. But I think pulling the App Store or disabling, people have called for them to disable iPhones in Russia. I personally think that would be a gigantic step that I don't think the company is ready to take. Now, at the same time, they do have services like Apple Music, Apple TV Plus, books, and podcasts in Russia. And if they were to take those offline, that would match some of the moves you're seeing from the Netflixes of the world that have pulled their service temporarily in Russia. What they did do earlier this week is they paused search ads, which is their advertising service inside of the App Store, so developers can no longer sell ads in their store in Russia. Will there be more to come? I think it's possible, but as of today, they haven't done anything additional.
Speaking of TV Plus, Major League Baseball games coming to Apple TV Plus, which is super cool, except for the fact that MLB and the players are in the middle of a lockout and regular season games the first couple of weeks have been canceled. No deal in sight at this point. Is this something that you think could be material to subscriptions to Apple TV Plus, or just a nice to have?
I mean, I'll tell you, I'm a Lakers fan. Sorry, that was for Julie.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Mark.
Go ahead, Mark. Julie, I'll let you get a crack at it too.
Okay, I'm an NBA fan, first and foremost, not an MLB fan. So if this was an NBA related deal, maybe it would get me to sign up. We also don't know when this is actually going to kick off because of the negotiations in the MLB world right now. But I do think this is just the first of many. We're probably going to see a racing deal, given some Eddie Q, their head of services, is big into that, as is their head of marketing, or former head of marketing, Phil Schiller. I think we'll see additional sports over time. They do have some relationships with the NBA. There's also been talk about NFL. So I think 2 games a week on Friday nights is not really going to move the needle for Apple TV Plus. What does move the needle for me is the fact that they are trying to get these deals done. And it's possible you'll have one service, Apple TV Plus, that has several different sports leagues all integrated, whereas some of the competitors either have only 1, 2, or none at this point.
Julie, I am a baseball fan, so I'll give you 30 seconds. You take a swing. How important is MLB?
Yeah, I would echo what Mark said. I think when we look at, why aren't people cutting the cord yet from their cable operators or satellite operators for TV? It is because of live sports. I think the question that comes into play, though, is becoming very fragmented now for consumers. I can't just go one place and get all the sports that I want. I'm going to a lot of different streaming services, get Thursday night football, Friday night baseball, Sunday night football, whatever it may be. And so we'll see how it plays out long term with consumers, but definitely directionally, it's the right place to go.